So it's that time of year. It's time for my annual report. Guys, it's been 8 years. I can't believe it. Um, Being on the diet for 8 years, and I've been making content for 6 years. So although I wasn't making content for those 8 years, this makes me, I believe, the longest person, or the person who's been doing the Primal diet the longest making content. Now, I know there's people like Derek Nance, but I don't know if he posts anymore. And he doesn't really do the Primal diet, as progenitus. I mean, he eats raw meat and fat, so I guess he does technically, but, he's not really doing some of the other formulas and things. I don't know if he does baths, so depends on how you define it. So depending on how you define it, I might be one of the only and longest ones continually doing it on the internet. And I'm here to not only yawn a bunch because I just got done in the bath, but I'm here to give you a no-nonsense annual report. What was the past year like since I started doing the diet? And the year goes by in a flash. The older you get, it's all made up, right? But it is relative. When you're just a kid and you're like 8 years old, everything feels so long. Some days feel like they're never going to end. I mean, some days maybe feel like now that for some people as adults, but the years go fast, but the days go slow. It's a Modest Mouse lyric. And I find that to be very true. This, honestly, keeping up with the diet, just this way of eating, being pretty strict about not eating cooked foods, not showering in tap water, not making exceptions for, pasteurized dairy, it's been easier as time went on, honestly. And maybe that's just my personality. I don't know. But generally in life, I tend to switch things. So I tend to, my first big passion was music. And eventually that died off. I kept with that for some years, but then eventually I just gave up on it. And because I just got busy, and then I started doing karate. And I started competing and fighting, doing a lot of sparring. I did that for about 5 years, and then the pandemic hit, and it pretty much derailed my momentum. I wasn't going to take a you-know-what to compete in tournaments. I thought that was pretty silly. So, again, lost momentum. And just 2 years before that, in 2018, I started the diet. And, you can go back and listen to my other annual reports about those initial changes and things. But I guess what's changed most for me from the first 3 years on the diet is, hold on. It's a bit dry. It's very cold out. And it's, warmer in here, but it's just forced air, forced heat. And, I guess the biggest changes are the meat. I guess I'll start with the meat. So, first, I always ate red meat. And then I graduated into pork and chicken. And eventually fish. I was just kind of an idiot, and I never really thought of, I can just go to the fish market or Whole Foods and buy fish and eat raw fish. But I guess that goes to show how the diet heals you and makes you smarter, because eventually after a few years I wised up. And I wish I wised up a lot sooner. But anyway, there was 1 year where all I ate was fish paste. And this is when I had my insomnia and tinnitus. And that has largely, the insomnia, long gone, right? It was gone in 7 months. The tinnitus is a lot better, but it's not gone away. I don't expect it to. But now I'm eating a mix of red and white meat consistently. I'll do a week of chicken and then a week of beef, and then I might spread some fish in there. So I'm basically doing like fish and beef and fish and beef. I started eating liver again in like once a month. I don't know that I'm having any improvement specifically because of that, but it is what I'm doing. I've been making an effort to eat more pineapple these past several years. And I think it's made a difference according to the iris changes that someone, edited to make the lighting the same. and said despite the differences in lighting, you could see changes. So I pinned his comment on that video. You could do it yourself and see for yourself. I'm not going to do that because frankly, I have no time to do that stuff, nor do I have any interest. I'm just giving you the raw data in my experience. That's what all this channel is about for the past, several years. This new face-to-face stuff is quite a new addition. This is actually the first annual report where you can see, my face. So last year, I also started doing more with the red lights and stuff, as you can see, and that's been a big help. I think it makes a big difference. I know I have some people in my comments like, but what about the melatonin production with a red light at night? Doesn't that inhibit melatonin production? Okay, buddy, maybe it does, but honestly, not enough where I notice it. I'm sleeping better, and I'm better rested, but I have things to do. I don't want to be in front of. I think it's even worse for your eyes to be in front of a screen that's on in the dark. So if you have lights on with the screen, I think it's better for your eyes, or I should say less harmful. But I have things to do. I can't shut off. I can't work. I can't go to work and then get home and then have 2 hours of productive work and then have to do all the other stuff I have to do, eat at a certain time, and take a bath. I want to take a bath, or this other stuff. And it's like, buddy, I don't have the time. I don't have the time or the luxury to just go to bed at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, which is basically still the afternoon. And then what am I going to do? Wait around for 12 hours for the sun to come up? No, get out of here. Like I have things I want to do and I want to get done. So that's that. As far as, I get a lot of remarks about the hair situation. Yeah, I don't think the diet does anything to help the hair situation, but I have been researching a fellow invert age and his journey, and I think probably the most promising thing I took away from there, or the most helpful thing for people, is to do the scalp massages and the inversion tables. I also think in general just getting blood to your head is a good thing, and that's probably the main loss of hair. It's interesting. I actually have hairs that, so like if my hairline's like, I don't know, here, right, and it comes across, I actually have small baby hairs in this region that come up and grow, and they're very out of place. So that tells me it isn't necessarily my hair follicles are dying, or this or that, or detox. I think it's just a matter of blood flow, honestly. So I'm going to try to do a better job of doing the scalp massages and the tension pulling and the inversion tables. I need to do the inversion tables anyway because I've been sitting too much and stagnant for the past, I don't know, ever since I stopped training. And, my splits are not as good, and I need to stretch more. My hips are feeling it, my back is feeling it. I'm getting old. So the inversion table is a great solution to this, as well as mixing in other things. So now I'm not really talking about diet per se, but just other things in my health, which, I guess are hopefully an edification to you, all you people out there who are just starting the diet 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. If you are expecting to just eat a bunch of liver and butter and stuff and grow your hair back, it's not going to happen. There's other biomechanical things going on there that I think you would be a better use of your time to do those things, like the scalp massages and the inversion table. And you can look into the other things too. I don't know, essential oils or rosemary, whatever. I don't know anything about that. I haven't really done that. So in the future, maybe is that something I'll try? I don't know. But we'll see what just getting the blood flow there. We'll just see what that does. Maybe a little bit of microneedling. I don't really like needles, so we'll think about that. But that's definitely one thing that has occurred to me. Like, yeah, diet does not really fix your hair loss. It's part of it, but I think there's a bigger component. Enriching and getting the blood healthy, and then you have to mechanically make sure you're getting a good blood flow to your brain, to your scalp. So anyway, we'll drop that. And as I said before, I've been eating a lot of pineapple. Even though it's not seasonal, I don't really care about seasonal too much. However, at the farmer's market, I will buy seasonal fruits. They're very tasty, okay? Grapefruit and citrus, etc. I do in the winter. Generally, just oranges and things. Just oranges. Grapefruit, I'll get year round. Or grapefruit juice. It's not as good outside of the winter, but it's helpful. And lemon and limes and sports formulas or lemonade, sauces, whatever, ceviche, what have you. Those kinds of things I can do all year round. But the grapefruit has been a tremendous fruit. I believe it's one of the most important fruits, especially if you're trying to get a little more alkalinity into your system. If the vegetable juices aren't cutting it, the grapefruit juice is very good at that. And I also believe it's very helpful for dissolving other things in the body, like the pineapple. Not as good as the pineapple, but I think it's probably, I'd put kiwis and grapefruit instinctually. I'm drawn to those. I haven't done too much kiwi, although I am tempted to do some more strawberry kiwi combinations. I do have some strawberries left, very limited supply, and I think maybe a strawberry kiwi ice cream, strawberry kiwi lemonade might be a good use of those. Those are very tasty fruit things. I have a strawberry kiwi recipe somewhere. But anyway, yeah, so in terms of fruits, that's that. As you know, I've set up herd shares. This is probably one of the biggest developments this past year. Was I worked with a couple farmers to help them set up fresh meat, organs, blood, glands, herd shares to you. So basically, I'm just their PR, and I help people find them. And I don't have anything to do with the business. I'm not in control of how they work. So, and people have found this out. I'll get, hey, so and so, this happened, or I'm like, okay, well, call him. But otherwise, it's been working great so far. Great for the farmer and great for everybody. I've heard a lot of good things, like people just getting extra meat. Like they order a pound and they get like 3 pounds. So he's very generous with his portions, I hear. And the chickens, I reviewed one of the chickens. It was like 8-9 pounds. The thing was huge. It was delicious. It comes with the feet, the gizzard, the neck, the liver, the heart. So really great stuff. You're not going to get cheaper stuff outside of that, like Amos or whatever. This is like the cheapest prices. So you can go check my videos on that. I explain it in detail, prices and everything, procedure. So, that's for me, that's been really key. I'm lucky to, have access to that, but I'm also even luckier to have access to foods here where I live in Ohio. It's very affordable, very good quality. It does take some legwork to find the right places, but once you do, you're in good shape. So, yeah, I'm lucky to be here. And that makes doing the diet easier, obviously. So I'm able to stick with it consistently, and I'm getting results. I went about a year without a detox, and I was feeling it. But the detoxes are getting less severe. I will say that. So if you're just starting out, the detoxes can be severe, especially if you don't have the weight on you. I've been fluctuating my weight. I've been between 168, which is actually the lowest I've been in a number of years, and 188. So right now in the winter, I need to do a better job. I wanted to get to 200 pounds. I don't know if I'm going to make it. I haven't weighed myself recently. I was 175 a couple weeks ago. I'm probably like 178 or so. And I definitely feel better with the weight. I went through a pretty bad detox, I don't know, a couple months ago. Or no, was it Christmas? Christmas time. No, it was Thanksgiving. Yeah, it was Thanksgiving. And I was out of it. Couldn't go to the family thing. Not that I was going to eat anything, but that's just why I remember, because I was sick for the holidays, and it was pretty rough. I've got like a lot of lung detox stuff going on generally, headache, and not too much like vomiting. Vomiting is like the least thing I do, and if I do it, it's in the morning, and then I'm usually not vomiting the rest of the day, especially if you have cheese. The cheese is so helpful. Yeah, a rash. So that's the other thing. I had a rash at the Primal Diet Conference, and man, that's been a really great thing. So, rave reviews from everybody who's gone. We're looking forward to this next year, June 11th through the 14th, 2026. Same place, Burke's Garden. So we're expanding pretty much because we're going to have more people. We're counting on like 60 people this year, 50, 60 people at least, and yeah, it's just been a great experience to meet everybody. It's kind of weird to meet people who just know you from the internet, but it's all right. I mean, some good folks, and I'm mostly busy, working the thing, making it happen, and I don't get as much time to enjoy it as I'd like, but just making it happen for people. That's just kind of what I do. So it is what it is. It's just nice to be out there. It's clean. It's good food. Yeah, so, we're going to do a small cow this year. It's going to be the harvesting, I should say. It's a little better term to use. We're going to be harvesting a small cow first thing, and then everybody's going to get a chicken. That's kind of the plan, to harvest themselves. So plenty of fresh meat, plenty of milk, all you can drink, raw milk. It's pretty awesome. And more classes and downtime, more structured time. We're going to have dual tracks of classes and workshops. So it's going to have something for everybody. People who just want an experience to come and relax and maybe see a class or two and communitize with people. And then, people who are more interested about learning about the diet, how they can make it better. Um, so yeah, that's a big part of my year because obviously I'm planning it up until then. So we already started planning, and I'm very busy. So really looking forward to that. Would love to see you come out there. It's a great time. Um, I guess, and that's yeah. Sorry, the rash. I just brought that up because I got this rash like out of nowhere, and I don't get the people who say skin stuff is not a detoxification. Okay, it doesn't make any sense. If you're gonna say that sweating is good, okay, because it gets toxins out of your body. Okay, well, where are the toxins coming from? They're coming from your skin. They're not magically transported from your bone marrow through your bones, through the tissues, through your skin. I mean, that's ridiculous. Everything comes out very slowly, eventually through the skin, right? I mean, if you've been on the diet for several years, you've probably had some sort of skin detoxification, whether it's a little something on your fingers, which is also something I used to get, these little bumps. It's some sort of eczema, but it's these little bumps and they're itchy and clear. If you're watching this far, congratulations. Here's a little bit of ball, grapefruit on that. Like you just keep putting grapefruit on it, dries it up, and then eventually like you just peel the skin, throw it away, stops the itching, dries it up, perfect. Yeah, grapefruit's a great thing to use for skin for that. So thank you for the watch time. That's your reward for getting this far. But yeah, I was putting butter. I was upping my butter to like 3 cups of lube formula a day, in addition to meat and fat and milkshake. Man, it might have helped a little bit, but I had this huge rash. It was all up and down my thighs actually, and it cradled around to my buttocks. Um, but it didn't quite cover my buttocks. It was mostly just the leg area of the thigh, inner and outer. And it was the worst eczema I've had in years, in like 2 decades. And it was so bad. It was so bad. I was putting butter on my legs because I'm like, okay, that's what I need to do. And it got to a point where my boxer shorts, I would wring out my boxer shorts and butter would come out of the fibers. That's how bad it was because I was so desperate. They were so itchy. And the fat would help a little bit, but then my skin would get really flaky and I'd scratch it off. It was like it was snowing. It was disgusting. I didn't have too much bleeding. It was mostly just like the skin just flaking. It just was like, it just kept coming and coming. It wouldn't stop. And this is going on for like 3 weeks. And I'm like, oh, bloody heck. I got to do the conference, right? So I'm doing the conference and it's so itchy. It's unbearable. And I was talking to a lady who was a client of Agenus's for years. She's been on the diet for, I think, 15 years at this point, 16 years at this point, something like that. And I was telling her, I was like, yeah, I got this rash. I even showed it to a few people, and they were like, whoa. But she said, Agenus told me something for my dog. My dog, she had a German Shepherd. A sad story. This, her daughter was pretty, like, not, with it, with the germ stuff. And she was raising her dogs, her German Shepherds, on raw, completely raw, no medications or injections. And the daughter, bless her heart, she was trying to do the right thing. She basically kidnapped her mom's dogs and injected them. Took them to the vet, basically. And then they got really sick. One of them got really sick, bad hip dysplasia, and was whining all the time. It couldn't get comfortable. And Agenus told her, this is what she was telling me. And she said, and Agenus told me to get clay and milk and mix that together and then put that on the dog where the hips are hurting and then wrap it with a towel. And she said as soon as she did that, the dog was better. The dog like stopped whining. It was like instant relief. So I said, oh, okay, maybe I should try that. I was getting a little bit of hip pain as well. It was not too noticeable sometimes, but there were times where I felt my hips hurting, and I thought it might have been connected to the rash I was having. So I went out to the creek where we were swimming, and I harvested a bunch of clay. I took it back to the room, the house, and I went to bed that night, and I just caked myself up with a bunch of clay, wrapped it in a towel, slept on the floor, and I woke up in 4 hours, and it was like 20% better. And I washed it all off, and then I went back to bed, and then I just kept doing the clay on my legs for like the next week. And after a week and a half, it was like mostly gone. It was on my right leg, and then it was behind my knees. Specifically, the hardest region, with the most stubborn region that wouldn't go away, was my right knee. And just based on my eyes, if you watch my video, I have more toxicity in my right side. It's very common that people will store more toxins on one side than the other. I don't know if there's a reason for that. Maybe because of where the liver is or where the heart is, where are your organs and that. Or maybe it has to do with how you sleep. What side do you sleep on? how your lymph system drains, at night when you're on one side versus the other. I don't know. But I have more toxicity on my right side, which is interesting because I notice I have a lot more of that eczema patch behind my right knee than I do on my left. Especially this was, this past summer. And, I just kept doing the clay when I needed to. And yeah, it got a lot better. So the moist clay came in clutch. It makes sense too. But it came in clutch better than it blew the butter out of the water, man. Like, because the butter I was still itchy, but this, like, overnight, instant improvement, 20%. So clay is huge for these skin things. So I'd recommend even just putting clay in the bath and extra milk if you're having these symptoms. And there's some other itch remedies I didn't really catch in the book at first. There was one that uses like tomato and olive oil and lime juice. In clay it sucked. It didn't work. It didn't work. Maybe for the type of rash I had, but it didn't work. I recently just was advising a client, and I found this other remedy that uses a melon as a base. Interesting. And I said, maybe I should have tried that. I don't have any rashes right now, but I suggested it to him. Maybe he'll let me know how it works for him, if that's worth it or not. So, yeah, a couple formulas there. But honestly, just put clay on it, or grapefruit. The grapefruit for me came in clutch with the, especially with the stuff on the hands, like here, right here on the side, the fingers. And I know like several people who get this. So, not an uncommon thing. And I used to get it before I started the diet. And, yeah, so that was probably the most interesting detox because I haven't had anything like that in, like I said, it exactly 2 decades. And, just the other standard flu detoxes. It was about a year since I had one of those from November. Before that, and before that was March or April 2024. Because I just had a detox before the eclipse, which I went to go see and get a full immersion there. It was very cool. But you look back, that's about where I was doing beet juice, and the beet juice helped with that detox. So something else to consider. So I'm sleeping really good. Hold on, give you a drink. So I'm sleeping pretty good. I've been doing the Revive, which isn't a diet change, but I really need to help expand my palate and move my jaw. Like, I need to do all that stuff because I had braces. My digestion's great. I'm chugging milk and it's fine. I would probably digest it a little better if I sipped it, but I don't have any problems with it. I do burp. Whatever. I generally think I burp more from swallowing air and chugging than it is an issue of digestion, but according to my irises, I still have quite a bit of brown around my pupil and the stomach area. No surprises there. What are you going to do? I don't eat a lot of cheese. In fact, this year is probably the year I have consumed the least amount of cheese because I just haven't needed it like I used to. So that's one of the things I noticed the most was the lack of a need for cheese. Just haven't needed it. I used to have to eat little bits because I'd get that indigestion in my stomach, and I don't really have that as much anymore. Some days it's noticeable, and I do need to eat the cheese for that. But a lot of days I don't. It was like every day I needed to do that. I think I made 5 pounds of cheese, and I was eating cheese and honey as well. I made 5 pounds of cheese last 2.5 months, which is like twice the amount of time for me. Because I used to do 5 pounds every month. So, and I am drying it out as well. So, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, I just need less of it. And like I said, I need less vegetable juice. I'm on day like 3. I'm on like day 60 with no vegetable juice. And I'm fine. And I eat a lot of meat. It's the grapefruit. Grapefruit's great. I'm telling you. And I'm eating grapefruit with sour cream or fresh cream and honey or honeycomb. It's even better with honeycomb for some reason. I don't know. But that's one of my most favorite things to eat. Yeah, super, super delicious. Also just putting parsley on my meat. If I'm feeling acidic, like with the red meat or even with the white meat, doing that, eating the grapefruit, more than enough for me at this point. And that's 8 years on the diet. I may attribute the speediness of dropping vegetable juice or reducing it greatly to the fasting I used to do. I was very skinny and I used to fast a lot. I used to eat once a day. I did that for like 2.5 years. I ate once a day, or in a window of 4 hours. I did intermittent fasting. And then I got really big into, this was for like a year, I got really big into OMAD and one meal every other day. So I was eating once a day, like a really big meal, or I was eating once every other day. And this is when I was training and, competing and stuff. And this wasn't necessarily like all the time, but I would do like one meal every other day, like at least once a week. Not at least once a week, at least twice a month. So I feel like the fasting helped maybe get rid of some of those AGEs and other things, but not something I recommend. But I wouldn't say there were no benefits to it, but I think the cons might have outweighed the pros. Anyway, don't do that anymore. So yeah, chugging the milk, it's great. Chugging the kefir, especially the clabbered milk, as I've said before, like just I have fresh milk because it's half bath milk, half hydration milk for the bath. What I do, and this is part of my bath strategy, is I keep these in the fridge. Like I usually keep 3 of these at all times in the fridge, and they sour up a little bit, but not too bad. And I'll drink about half of that in the bath and after, and then I'll add 2 to 3 cups of milk when I add more water to the tub to heat it up and to fill it up again. So I add more vinegar and salt up front, but then I'll just add more milk when I add more water, because I think the milk is the most important, one of the most important pieces of that equation with the bath formula. So I always add more milk when I add more water, and that's what that's for. But I drink that mostly fresh, because you can't use clabbered milk or kefir in the tub. It's a really bad idea, especially if you have a lot of body hair, because the cheese will mat to your hair and you can't get it off. You have to like rip your hairs out or cut it off. It's really bad. Ask me how I know. But yes, I am chugging the clabbered milk, and the clabbered milk I chug down with honey, and it's no problem. I never had problems. I always thought I had a bit of a iron stomach for most of my life, but towards the end there, when I would go to McDonald's and get I don't know, like 6 fresh baked cookies, and I'd eat them, I would get heartburn. Yeah, that was me like 2017, 2016. It wasn't good. Eating a little Taco Bell. I get like Taco Bell once a month, man. And I talk about all my food cravings, like on my live sometimes when people ask me. And, psychologically, these things, you crave them, but if you actually ate them after being on the diet, it's going to make you feel like garbage, generally. Not that I crave Taco Bell, it's other things. Just other, like, cooked food dishes, which I'm going to release a video on that, conquering your cravings. Or, honestly, it's probably already out, because I just edited that, and I'm going to upload it. And this, I'm going to upload this later. But, I'm trying to think of what else. I haven't been patéing my meat, that's one thing, because it just isn't as appealing to me. I find I can eat more meat if I have to chew it. I find the chewing of the muscle meat to be very satisfying, especially beef. It really scratches my brain. The pate, yeah, I mean, it's okay if you need to go incognito for lunch at work or something, or you really want to try to get the most out of your food. But for me, it's very satisfying to just bite into meat and chew it and swallow it. There's something about it, man. I love it. I can almost eat more that way than patéing meat. If I got the right sauce, I could probably wolf down the pate, but I haven't patéed my meat in like a year and a half, 2 years, honestly. So not something I really like to do anymore, because I used to do it all the time, and I've just kind of grown out of it. Was I sleeping less? Yeah, but I actually like laying in bed and sleeping and dreaming. I actually like doing that, so I don't really want to sleep less. I want to sleep more. I'm sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night, easy. Sometimes 9. Sometimes I'll get more sleep in the morning if I have time, if I feel like it. So 7, 8 hours, no problem. I know some people have problems sleeping. It's generally a protein deficiency. Not that the blue light is like the only cause or the sole cause. It definitely doesn't help. But if you have enough protein, you're gonna be solid sleeping for the most part. So, it can be hard to schedule that throughout the day, especially if you're not eating the eating schedule, or you're new to the diet, you have some special needs. So yeah, there's tons of things you can do for sleep. I just released a sleep video, so go check that out. And yeah, all in all, I don't know, I really can't see myself not eating this way anymore, because partly because I'm lazy. This is probably the biggest reason. I've always hated cleaning dishes and spending time cooking, even though I was good at cooking, and I liked it somewhat. And I still cook for some people if they need it. But for me personally, I can never imagine wasting the time and energy and money to cook eggs. You literally just suck them out of the shell in like 3 seconds, and that's it. You're done. There's your breakfast. There's an omelet. It's done. You're gonna crack your eggs and get the pan hot, and then flip them around or put them on a plate and then eat them, and then have to wash the plate in the pan. And get out of here, man. Get out of here. No, never again. Cooked eggs aren't even that good. Not even that good. But if I were to travel, it's very likely I would consume, some cooked foods, but I would still do at least 50% raw. So, but it would be a tough time. I'd have to drink a bunch of water or something because I get it, the cooked food just drives me out from my past experience. Like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it was Christmas dinner and Thanksgiving. It was just really bad and dry for a few days, and I was drinking a lot of milk, but it didn't really help because I think it was the salt. But yeah, that's another interview I want to do. Is I have a client who had a very bad experience with the SHP, the self-healer protocol, Donnie Darko's self-healer protocol, and my theory on salt is that some people's bodies do better with it, and some people's don't. I don't do better with salt. I'm not. It's nasty. I don't play with that stuff. I never used to use a lot of it either. The only salty thing I liked was salt and vinegar chips, and that was because you had the vinegar to balance out the salt and something crunchy, and that was nice. I put them on a turkey sandwich, a little bit of mayo. Yeah, that was nice. But no, not just salt. I don't know how people drink plasma. I don't get it. I mean, I like oysters, right? And I like a salty oyster on occasion, but not too much of it. And I'll drink the water, the salt water, which I guess is technically a kind of plasma. I don't really feel like it adds this tremendous benefit to my life, though. I feel like the oyster meat themselves is the tremendous benefit with the beef, which I've been doing very prodigiously for the past year and a half, 2 years. I was getting, and this is probably the biggest win of 2025 for me this past year, was I got to know these people who worked at this fish market, and they didn't really like working there. It was pretty terrible. The place was probably going to go out of business. And they would give me boxes of oysters, right? At first it was like, oh, we'll give you this price. And then the price just kept lowering until they just started giving it away. Like they would just give me a whole box of oysters. So I go home and I would shuck like 30 oysters. And I'd eat 30 oysters in a sitting with beef. And this has made just a tremendous difference. This is probably the biggest diet win of the past year, was just the amount of oysters. It was incredible. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. And I said to myself, this is a good thing, and good things don't last forever, so I'm going to take advantage of it. And I'd slip them $20. They would just pocket it, or they would just give me the box. Depends on how they felt, but they didn't care, man. They knew me, they liked me, and it just goes a long way, just being real to people, being cool, being chill, being polite, and they just hooked me up for nothing, man. It's just like, whoa. So yeah, it was really tasty, man. A lot of oysters and beef. Really helps get rid of the mercury, I think. I feel like my mind's working a lot better in general. I'm just more calm and balanced in general, and I have good energy. In the summers, I work property management year round on the paper side, and then in the summer I go outside and I'm on site, so to speak, and I'm working 7-8 hour days, and then I'm volunteering at a farmer's market, and I'm working another 3-4 hours on top of that. And I don't need plasma to do that. I don't need liver to do that. I have a hydration formula, eggs and cheese, and buttermilk was another useful thing that I picked up and started drinking. Buttermilk and honey, maybe a peach with the buttermilk and the cheese and the honey, hydration formula, maybe a Gerolsteiner, and that's what I drank most of the day. And then I go home and I eat a nice meat meal. Usually white meats in the summer: cherry tomatoes, chicken, parsley, lemon pepper, honey, lemon pepper, whatever, olive oil, just that kind of stuff. But I like the light white meat in the summer. I gravitate towards the red meat in the colder months, I've noticed. But yeah, huge win with the oysters and beef. I've kept up that tradition. I've been buying my oysters from Kroger now. They're 69 cents. Giant Eagle got too expensive. I said, screw this, and I'm just going to Kroger now. Not buying the meat there. It's awful. But yeah, and even the guy hooked me up, and he said he could give me a deal. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, yeah, I can give you a discount. And I was like, what? And he's like, they're 45 cents. I'm like, okay. So I bought, 15 of them. It was like $6. It's awesome. I'm gonna ask about buying a whole box. See if they'll sell me a whole box for like $20, which they probably could, because that'd be 50 oysters. So we'll see about that. But yeah, just a lot of oysters, man. I'm just eating a ton of oysters. And people, I don't think I have great teeth, honestly. They're not like the whitest, but they do glisten. I don't know if you can see the glistening in this light. Probably not. But my teeth do have a shine to them just naturally because of all the oysters I eat. And I've gotten compliments on my teeth, like, "Oh wow, your teeth look great." You know, I know some people complain about teeth problems on the diet, but generally, I think that stems from not having enough minerals and eating too much honey, too much cheese and honey. Like Audrey is very specific about 1 teaspoon, like for your mixture of cheese and honey, and he even says less is better. He says like 1.5 teaspoons, but 1 teaspoon's better, less is better, because yeah, it does upset the calcium and phosphorus. The blood sugar spikes upset the calcium phosphorus ratio in your blood, which inhibits getting minerals to your teeth and to your bones in general, I think. So, I don't really get the Peters and how they promote this sugar stuff, but then they talk about this balance, but they don't realize that the sugar spikes upset this balance, I guess. I don't know. But, I've heard some people talk about how, their teeth are rotting or their teeth are falling out on the diet, or other people's are doing that. And it's not entirely surprising to me. That's not entirely rooted in detoxification. That's also due to like eating too much fruit, eating too much honey, not eating enough just clabbered milk, not eating enough oysters, not eating enough fish. So like all those things are important, and you can't not do them. As well as doing the vegetable juice with the celery and the parsley. You need the minerals in the parsley to combine with the free radicals in your blood to mitigate them. That's the whole purpose of the parsley and the celery. It's not just plain celery. And I've talked about this in my other videos before, but literally all my clients who come to me with this problem of appetite or not feeling right, I say, okay, just start celery and parsley. Just start. Just try it. It always works. It always works. Sometimes I'll add, carrot or beet in there depending on what they need. Maybe some ginger. I don't know. It just depends on what they need. It's all personal. I have a vegetable juice guide in my school. It goes through everything, every vegetable. Not just autogenous material, but other schools of thought on vegetable juice and what each of the vegetables do. And like 3 fruits, papaya, pineapple, grapefruit I mentioned. Because you can use those a little bit in the juice too. At least the pineapple and grapefruit. The grapefruit's a good substitute, like I said, but anyway. I've got all that in a document for you. And yeah, big wins with the vegetable juice. You may start out and not need them, but over time, you probably will. Again, it's not like everybody needs them. It's everybody's body's different, okay? But it's likely you might need something like that. So I found that useful. So my clients, and so did Audrey clients and his research. When I say research, I mean his clients, his guinea pigs. It's how he formulated all this stuff. So, I've been yapping quite a bit here in terms of an annual report, and I think I covered all the big things. I'm not really sure what I'm looking forward to this next year, besides doing the conference, but in terms of my diet and, just want to experiment with, I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. I think one thing I'm definitely going to keep doing is the oysters and beef for sure as a foundation. I have been consuming more lube formulas because I've been able to get a cheap source of butter, $5 a pound, looky flex. And I don't really like the lubes, but I've kind of taken a toleration to them, and I think they may help in the long run. So we're going to keep pounding away at the lubes. I think I like to do 2 or 3 a week. It's not something I do every day. If I'm not doing a lubrication formula, I'm doing the milkshake, generally. Not always. Still eating meat with fat. I've been doing the dates, cheese, and butter as well, which is a very nice combination. I prefer cold butter with cheese and dates. The warm butter and the dates is nasty. I don't know how people eat that alone. Yuck. It's terrible. The way the butter gets when it's warm with the dates does not appeal to me. I mean, different strokes for different folks, but not something I get excited about. For me, the butter is better cold with the dates and the cheese. I don't know. It's just when the butter's cold and it warms up in your mouth, it tastes different, and the textures. It's a more interesting textural experience in terms of like the food, the culinarily. So, because it gets a little boring eating this diet in some ways. So, you want some variety. You want something to like change it up. And for me, the cold butter with the dates and cheese is spectacular. Um, One thing I've been, I guess, technically cheating on is kombucha. So at the farmer's market, it gets pretty hot outside, right? And I do know a very good, it's locally made. They don't use bad water. They source a lot of the ingredients from the farm that I do work for. So I know this stuff is good. And, the kombucha, it helps with the balancing the blood a little bit. It's not something I like to drink a lot of because it does get hard on the teeth. It's a little vinegary. It's got the sugar. But, I drink that with eggs, and that's pretty nice, honestly. I've also started eating dried seaweed, nori sheets. You can buy them. They're pretty cheap. And on days, generally, I remember to do it only on days I have sushi, or I like to do it on days I have sushi because I do get some rolls that already have nori in them. Plus, I'm getting some rice. So that's like the cooked food stuff. And I do find that when I eat that, my bowel movements, they do get slower. They do get a little more dry because of the salt. And, it's just a little treat. I do that maybe once a month. I'll get a couple packs of sushi. And I only do it if they're on marked down like 50%. So, I mean, I'm not going to spend full price on sushi. That's crazy. I'm too cheap for that. I love a good deal. I love getting a good deal. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much like the things I'm cheating with on the diet is eating, sushi and sushi rolls once a month, once every other month, and the kombucha during the warm months. But just in full disclosure, and I guess it depends on when you say like, oh, are you doing the diet? Of course, I'm still doing the diet, even though I do those things. I would frame doing the diet as what is it that you survive on. So if you took away all the raw foods I eat, and I was left with sushi once a month and kombucha, I would die. So I'm not, because I do that, that doesn't mean I'm not on the diet, right? So, I mean, if you're 50% on the diet, you're bordering. But if you're less than 50% on the diet, I would say you're not really on the diet, right? Because can you really survive? You probably could survive on 40% of those foods, just raw foods, of your intake. You could, but it would be very tough. You would not be happy. You would not be thriving. You would not be in a good place. So, I would say 50%. 50% might stop the degeneration. But that entirely depends on your like medical history and how much toxicity you have in your body, which is not an easy thing to get rid of. These people who say, yeah, you can just go out into the sun and you'll detox very fast in a few years. That's not true. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. It's not the case, because what's happened is after your whole life, your body's been formed with pollution in all of your cells. Literally all of your cells have some sort of pollution in them. And the only way to grow a new body is to eat raw meats and fats, right? It's the only way. Oh, gotta plug in the computer. Don't want to lose my recording. Okay, so yeah, the only way to build a new body is to eat the raw meats and fats. If you're just gonna go cook yourself in the sun, that's not gonna happen, at least in your lifetime. So I'm not saying you need raw meats and fats to live a good life and be healthy, but what I'm going to say is if you want to build a new body and you want to have more health, right, you're going to need the meats and fats. But that's also combined with low tox living in general, not just from a material standpoint, but also like, yeah, you do need sunlight. I'm not saying you don't. Ajna said you need 30 minutes of sunlight a day minimum on this diet to get the full benefits. So, he talked about this. And, it sucks. It's the winter. I'm doing the best I can to get out and take walks and get the sunset. I don't really get to catch too much of the sunrise. But, yeah, it's a bit disingenuous to tell people that they can just heal without those foods, completely, and you just need the sun to detox everything in your body. That's not how it works, because your body needs the right foods and minerals to combine with the free radicals and get them out of your body safely. If you don't have the right diet, that's why vegans look the way they do. I don't know if I've said this in a video before, but I've used this in antidotes, especially on the lives. So I actually know vegans who are, for all intents and purposes, pretty healthy. And you might say, well, that's a pretty crazy thing to say. That's ridiculous. Like, how is that even possible? You're lying. You must be lying, or they're lying. And no, it's true. Like, I know 3 people personally. One of them I have known since I was in preschool, and he is a lifelong vegan. The one thing these people have in common is that it's not just what they eat or what they don't eat. It's that they've never had a pharmaceutical in their life. The effect of pharmaceuticals on your body is far more damaging than anything. I've seen this in dogs who've been raised on kibble and have never had any injections or very little injections, living very long lives, 15, 14, 16 years old. Obviously degenerating a bit at the end there, but they live longer than most dogs that are going to the vet every year for checkups and whats. So one of these vegans had a scholarship to play college baseball. Okay. The other vegan, just one of the nicest, most grounded, pleasant, intelligent people I know. She's really great. I enjoy speaking with her, and yeah, she's very cool, and like she's not like rabid about veganism, she's chill about it. But they never had a pharmaceutical. That's why they're healthy. Okay, it's not necessarily what you're not eating or what you're eating. Like I said, the pharmaceuticals is the biggest detriment to health. And yeah. So I always like to bring that into the mix because it's easy to get bogged down in dogma and echo chambers, and I don't really subscribe to that. I do this and I do this because it works for me, and it's not going to work for everybody, but I'm getting results. I'm also lazy, like I said. Like, that's another big reason too. I'm lazy and I don't like cooking food. I found out over the past 8 years you do not need to cook your food. So that's great. Hey, amazing. I'm not cooking my food because I'm lazy. That's just as important as the health aspects for me, honestly. So it isn't about living in an echo chamber and always eating the best diet and whatever. So I just wanted to say that because there's a lot of different schools of thought out there, and I just wanted to bring my genuine opinion to that because I feel like it needs to be said, because there's a lot of people who just are starting this diet and they talk about how, this is the best. Well, they're not even doing the diet, right? They're just eating raw meat and telling people to eat raw meat. And their testimonials of their clients or whatever, like, of course they're getting better because they're cutting out all the junk and then they're eating raw meat. You could eat raw meat twice a day, twice a week, and you're going to get better if you don't change anything in your life. It doesn't matter. So, that's really a big driving force. So, and that's what Ajna said. His client Louis, who couldn't form a sentence, he just said, yeah, eat raw fish twice a day, twice a year. And he did it for like a year, and then he was able to actually have a functional conversation. Didn't change anything else in his life. Nothing. So if you change something in your life and you eat raw meat, yeah, you're going to leaps and bounds, man. Leaps and bounds. Although, of course, it's not really sustainable for the most part because most people aren't eating the balanced diet they need to really heal. People stagnate. They don't know what to do. And then they either go back to eating another way or they try something else. So, yeah. Just like how, plasma works for some people, it doesn't work for other people. So, there's a broad range of things. So that's important to keep in mind. And, you look at me, I'm, whatever. It's like, who am I? I'm just an asshole with a laptop. I don't, I'm just bringing you the real stuff. There's no BS scientism. There's no, but this study says this and this study says this and this and that. And I'm just hey, I read this book and I'm applying what I learned and in my own experience and what other people have told me that was useful. I learned, and I'm doing that. And this is what I'm doing. And that's what this channel is. This is what this channel is about. So there wasn't a resource like this, and I decided to make that because I felt like it was missing, and also just to see for myself what's going on from the years past. I can look back from 5 years ago. I got 400 videos on here. I mean, has it been 5 years? No. 4 years, I think. This summer. Maybe. I don't remember. But anyway, just to look back, I guess. If you're really interested in tracking your progress, iris pictures may be a good idea. Maybe not. I don't know. I kind of wish I took better pictures, but now I have pretty decent pictures, so we'll see next year. I'll take some pictures and we'll do a little comparison. So anyway, this video's gone on long enough. I've probably been talking for like, I don't know, like 40 minutes. This is crazy. So a little bit all over the place, but you know, everything's kind of tied back to like the past year, my observations on myself and other people, and just thoughts, just things I think you should know. So I hope you got something out of the video. I hope, I forgot to tell you guys, maybe I'll put it in the description. I hope you put this on 2x speed. I hope. That'd make it a little better to watch. Less watch time for me, of course, but, you know, it's not all about that, right? So, again, thanks for watching, and, yeah, that's about all.